Hi, I'm Beth Kaufman, and I'm going to talk about how to taper for a marathon. So tapering is probably the most critical part of your marathon training after those long runs. So tapering, all that means is cutting back on your training. So you're going to want to cut back on both the miles that you're running per week and the intensity that you're running per week. The taper for a marathon should start about 2 weeks prior to the marathon. And that just depends on your level of expertise. A beginner will definitely want to do at least 2 weeks. If you're a little bit more of an expert, you could suffice with 7 to 10 days of a taper. So that first taper week, you'll want to cut the amount of miles you run by about 60%. So if you were running 40 miles a week the previous week, you want to cut out about 24 miles from that, so that leaves you about 16 miles for that week, and then you want to cut another 20% or so from that, so that final week before the marathon, you'd only run maybe 8 to 10 miles. About 2 nights before the marathon, you'll probably want to just completely rest, and that means no running or a very light workout, which I would recommend some sort of cross training just to kind of keep the blood flowing and to also keep you kind of mentally involved with being physically active. Along with tapering comes important nutritional advice. You want to make sure to hydrate. So drink plenty of water that week before a marathon, and especially a couple days before. Make sure not to drink too much water, or else you could have hyponatremia, which just means that you have low amounts of sodium because you have too much water, which can be fatal. So make sure that what you are consuming, that you have some salt in there, such as Gatorade or Powerade, will help negate any possibility of having any type of problems with too much water in the system. Along with tapering, make sure that you are getting plenty of sleep. So aim for 8 to 10 hours per night. And I know the night before a marathon, you're going to be pretty excited. It's going to be very hard to sleep. The most important night to get sleep is 2 nights before a marathon. So if you're racing on Saturday, you want to make sure that you get the best sleep that Thursday night. The morning of the marathon, just loosen up those legs a little bit. Go for a short 5 to 10 minute jog. Get the blood flowing, do some easy stretches, but don't do anything out of the ordinary. Other things that are very important with tapering: make sure you don't try any new foods during that week. Don't try anything new during the marathon, so only run that marathon with foods you've been eating during your training. Also, do not buy and wear a new pair of shoes unless you have 6 weeks before the marathon. You never, ever want to buy new shoes a couple days before a marathon. I guarantee you will have blisters. So it's very important to taper starting about 2 weeks out and slowly cutting back on the amount of running that you're doing and the time that you're doing for each run, and slowing down each individual run. And as you taper, tapering guarantees that your body gets enough rest to be able to run that daunting 26.2 miles. So again, these are just some tips and suggestions on how to taper and thus be able to run a very successful marathon.